Let's get this going. I can't find a way to make my note taker work, so I'll have to do that later. But anyway, Candy, the floor is yours.
Well, hello, everyone. Um, I didn't know how much time I had,
You got the whole
so
class if you want it.
I just kind of put it together and we'll just kind of see where we end. Is that all right? Because I didn't practice. I just took notes and wrote notes and made a pretty little thing.
That's what this is all for. So you do your thing. This is how we figure out where we need to go and what we need to do. We'll judge you later.
Okay, so I'm just gonna dive right in. Hold on, I gotta find my share screen button because I had to make you small to fit everything on here.
And just for the record, Candy will be going over week one assessment of visual function, discussing refractive status of the eye and the visual acuity, contrast sensitivity, and color discernment assessment.
And Mike, I can't kick you out of sharing, so you're gonna have to unshare so
Oh,
I
I
can
forgot
share.
I was sharing. There you go.
I
Never, never,
kept
always
trying
forget.
and it said you can't do that. Whoops.
Sorry about that.
Um, Mine doesn't have any cool sound, so I don't have to worry about that button. But if you have cool sound, there's a button for that. Just know that for the future reference, I don't want somebody to miss out because they don't hit the button.
There's a button for sounds.
Yeah.
There is a button for sounds.
We don't need to know where that is.
So I just wanted to start that from the front. Mine doesn't have any sound. Only me, sorry. So we are part one, understanding the refractive status of the eye. As seasoned opticians, we should know what this is. Just I did kind of a little rundown. I didn't get too thick for this part of it. Um, we either have a refractive error or we don't. That just depends on where the light shines in the retina. Um, you guys are in front of my notes. I can't see them. Refractive error refers to the shape of the eye and it affects how the light focuses on the retina. I just said that. Um, any of the following conditions can cause vision impairment impacting both children and adults, leading to poor academic performance. So the little kids that aren't doing so great in school, the big kids that aren't doing great in school, job qualifications. I knew a gentleman that was um, unable to read while I was growing up because he didn't have good eyesight. So I think that kind of diminishes his job qualifications and social interactions. There are a lot of people that don't want to go out in public because they think that they're going to be judged or whatever because of not being able to see well. There are four main types of refractive errors, usually corrected with glasses, contact lenses, or laser surgery. They are myopia, nearsightedness, hyperopia is farsightedness, astigmatism, and there are several different types of astigmatism. I didn't get into all of those, and presbyopia, which is the loss of flexibility resulting in focusing on close objects being a little more difficult. My eyes have little dogs in them because I work for a vet clinic right now and it just seemed appropriate. So for myopia, that is usually written in a plus power prescription in the fear part of the prescription pad. Fear something, yes. I had to stop and think about that. Um, that means the light falls just short of the retina, so the image needs to be lengthened with a plus power lens. It is opposite of that with hyperopia. It falls past the retina, so the prescription needs to minify the image. So we need a minus power lens.
Um, Hold on. Probably need to swap that candy.
What?
Myopia.
Oh, I did swap that.
It's all
No, I
good. It's all
didn't.
good.
Yeah, it skipped hyperopia, it looks like.
Oh, hyperopia. Okay. Did I miss one?
Nope, you're good. You got it.
Okay. All right. Then my astigmatism. So with this astigmatism, it has more than one focal point. Is it only ever just two? I guess I didn't really think about that till I was putting this together. Can it be more than two?
I
It's measuring
mean,
at the it's measuring at the 80 at the 180 and the 90, so therefore we're
Okay.
looking at two numbers.
Okay.
But there is 180 and all the other gazillion numbers if you go to a fraction of
Right.
a degree that you could measure as well using your
Okay.
formulas.
All right. And that makes sense. It just, for whatever reason, I don't know why that just popped into my head, but um, this is where the second part of the prescription comes in under the cylinder power, can be written in plus or minus depending on what kind of doctor that you use. And I believe it's been a while, but I believe all labs grind in minus power cylinder, correct?
I believe so for the most part. I don't know of anything that grinds in plus cylinder. I could be incorrect. Harry may have a correction on
Yeah,
that.
I think they're all transposed to be in a minus power cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the labs they are in minus. They don't make in plus because they can realize that in plus they need to be in minus.
That's
Is
what
the
I thought.
mandate.
Yeah, it used to be a really old thing where you would have ground on the front, the astigmatism, and then you just grind the back as a spherical curve, and the back was actually referred to as the base, but that was, we're talking like 80, 90 years ago. Like that's so out of vogue, it's not relevant anymore.
Okay.
I think that, sorry guys, I think that so there are still some of the labs they provide with a plus cylinder, but they use typically that only for the glass materials, not for other materials that we use here. There are a few of them, and I don't know, to be honest, why they still using that one, but one time that I was asking, they were saying that it's more simple for creating the thinnest part for the glass lens. So probably something they need to figure out that how to change it.
That's interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I asked that question. Okay. And then the fourth one was the presbyopia. I have been a presbyope for many years. I will admit it. I even asked for it. I encouraged my doctor to put it into my lenses. I'm an avid reader. I wanted to have that extra help, which is the loss of up close clarity. And that is written in a plus power in the add section of the lens.
So we get into this argument with my doctors all the time at work, and they are Parisian trained, out of Paris, and they will argue until the sky is no longer blue that presbyopia is not a refractive error.
I can
What
understand the argument. I mean, it's
what
the
is it
loss of
then?
accommodation over
Well,
time because
yeah,
of the
yeah, and
crystalline.
I don't disagree with that because it has nothing to do with the shape of the eye, which it says the refractive error corrects the shape of the eye.
Mm-hmm.
So presbyopia does not fall into the shape of the eye. It falls into the function and the elasticity of the muscles and the things holding the lens together.
Yep. So
So yeah,
they lump presbyopia in with all the other age-related diseases like cataracts and macular degeneration.
and that makes sense. I wouldn't disagree with that.
I 100% see that too. Yeah.
It's an accommodative disorder as opposed to a refractive disorder.
Yes.
I do want to add a nerd note if that's okay. And if you're going to cover this, I apologize, but it's something I notice a lot of people don't cover. I promise it's not you, it's me.
No, throw it in. Throw it in.
So, with myopic patients, it's often, most of the time, found that the reason that you're having to minify the image is because the eyeball, the axial length, is actually shorter. And so whenever the light is coming in and hitting the cornea is still refracting that light. But what happens is that eyeball's a little shorter, so the light's hitting a little bit behind the retina now. And with hyperopia, the eyeball's a little bit longer. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the average axial length is like 23.
You get 1 point, Chelsea. You're on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay, so myopia, nearsightedness.
Yes.
Yeah. Minus
Yes.
longer axial length.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Okay. I'm hearing the opposite. We've switched the terms this evening. I was trying.
Okay.
So
no, and yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, because
you're good. Longer axial length is with myopia, and then
I'm sorry. Shorter.
It's gonna be hyperopia because it can, like, you got that virtual image with minus lenses.
You're totally
real
correct.
images, yes.
Thank
So, all right, continue.
This is why she's here.
Another way you can remember that is the nearsighted people are the ones that have the long eyeballs. That puts a lot of traction on the back of the retina. That's why we're all at risk for retinal detachment. That's how I remember it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one.
All right. Sorry, Candy. You're up.
No, you're good. Then I just threw in some extra terms. Emetrope, ametropia. I haven't said these words in a long time. I apologize if I completely disrupt them.
You should try before we correct you.
Emetropia is no refractive error. Everything's good in the world. We're round, we're accommodated. Ametropia is having a refractive error, whichever one falls into your category. Anisoconia, I know I said this one earlier. Anisoconia. I feel like there's too many letters in there.
There are.
There are. Perfect. So when I was doing my research, I was just looking up this one today because it says a different image size per eye. So does that mean plus on one side, minus on the other, or is that just I know there are some that are different, huge prescription changes and that kind of stuff. So I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't do great on that research.
So anisoconia is going to be, and it could be caused by that because if you have a big difference between each eye. But for the sake of having the definitions and the terms, which you will need, it's oh my God, my mind just completely went blank. Oh yes, so it's antimetropia, plus in one eye, minus in the other, and then anisometropia, which is a difference of greater than, and Paige, you might have to correct me. We decided it was minus 150, right?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a difference of minus 150 in the power. So let's say you have minus 0.75 in one eye and minus 0.225 in the other eye. That's anisometropia.
Okay.
You have plus 1 in one eye, minus 1 in the other. That's antimetropia. Now, you have some kind of crazy difference like that, which is it's going to happen. You're going to see it. Everybody's probably seen it. Then one lens is either magnifying one image too much or minifying one image too much. And it just makes for an uneven, you just can't your brain can't grasp it. And so that's why you need the isoconic lenses to kind of help balance that out.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever been exposed to that, only just on a minimal time frame, or even being, in the field for 20 years. I didn't see that a lot.
It's like a natural motivation built in.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting, so anisoconia is an interesting thing in that it's when we see it, we tend to treat the most obvious cases, like they stand out. But there's also like moroidal anisoconia. So when somebody has astigmatism and you're taking and you're looking at the different meridians, and this could be outside of just the primary meridians that are like the sphere and the cil meridian. If there's more than and there's no like real hard and fast rule to it. 150 is a good one. Some books say 2. Some of them will go up to like 253. So it's not really like a super defined. It's if they're having a problem with it, then you consider that if there's a large difference between. But there's also documented cases of like axial length causing anisoconia. So the way you'd correct for that is to try to bring the magnification down in the most magnified eye and up in the most minified eye. And you're trying to reduce it. There's no way to eliminate it without creating other issues. So that's a really, really fun case. It's kind of like a more specialized case, I guess. You could use, they make like shape lenses where you can order literally Plano lenses in a bunch of different base curves and thicknesses and place them in front of patients' eyes to see how much magnification difference do you have to reduce in order to get them comfortable again and seeing binocularly.
I've got a question. Is it beyond an aspheric lens that you're using? Is there something else that you would do in order to make sure that the lenses come out at a decent thickness or thinness?
So I mean, you can use aspherics. Aspherics get a little bit more complicated, but what you're trying to do is because there's like when we consider magnification and we consider kind of the simple things we can do, if we're designing it out, the more vaulted a base curve is, the more magnification it's going to provide. So the front curve provides, and it's often called the shape factor. And then you also have like the power factor, which is what lens material you're using and what thicknesses you're using, even vertex distance, playing with bevel placement, placing one all the way front, one all the way back, kind of adjusting out some or creating differences between vertex. Those can all help with magnification a little bit. And ideally, you want to create a cosmetically appealing lens, but our primary goal is to make sure that they can see through them, right? So sometimes, and depending on who you ask, because every optician is going to have a different opinion, you could use differing materials, you could use differing thicknesses, you could use differing bevel placements, base curves, aspheric on one, spherical on the other. So there's a bunch of different ways to mitigate it. It all just kind of depends what you're comfortable with and how comfortable you are playing with it. There are some calculators online that you could punch things in and kind of, adjust here and there to see how close you could get things to. I'll see if I could find some and post a link.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Harry. All right, Candy, you got the show. Go ahead.
Okay. Next up, visual acuity. So visual acuity measures how the brain sees objects. And I tried not to cheat off of Chelsea too badly.
She covered everything. It'd be hard not to grab something.
Essentially, the Snellen chart is more about how sharp and clear the lines are than they are about the letters themselves. So basically, my notes are more lengthwise. If you have a 20/20, that is standard good vision, normal VA. If you have a 20/60, what one person sees at 20 feet, the other person would have to stand at 60 feet to see the same thing. And I didn't realize that it was only for clarity. Like that, I didn't look into it that far, even with the phoropter and stuff. I didn't realize that we were looking for the clean square edges. So that was kind of a new thing to me, but I've never had to, I never messed with the Snellen chart.
It's cool to look at even the fonts. The fonts are proportionate. So the line in the middle of the E is exactly dividing the top of the E with the bottom of the E.
Yes, and I did see a chart that said that there were certain parameters and where each line was a certain length and width and that kind of stuff. So I didn't realize all of the things that went into what the Snellen chart does, and it's a pretty cool concept.
And you'll always start with the black and white or a white and black. There'll always be that immediate color contrast.
And the Snellen chart and the color test, I can't say that word either, Isharan, are two of the oldest charts that are still in use today as they were originally made and intended. I did learn that. So then with the visual acuity comes contrast sensitivity. And this one is another cool chart. I looked at this chart for a long time just to see kind of how things were lined up and shaped. And it is all black, white, and gray. Even when it's not sharply defined, you're still looking at where you're, to me, it's still visual acuity because you still see the lines and the shapes and that kind of stuff. And it also makes me think of those, again, I'm throwing my age out there. My sister had this poster on the board on her wall looked like a dot painting. And if you looked at it long enough, you could see a teddy bear in the middle of it. I still can't do those. But it kind of reminded me of this. If you look at some of these circles long enough, and I have a bigger one here, you kind of see something, maybe a little, and it does go more contrast from the upper left to the lower right. It gets less contrast. And this makes me need to clean my printer. And lighting does play a role in visual acuity. There is a dog in both of these pictures. I stole this offline. I thought it was pretty cool. It took me a long time to see the dog on the left, but there is one there. And of course, with the brighter light and the darker dog, you clearly can see the little Scotty guy short in the snow. Can you see the dog in the left?
I can, but I've seen the picture before.
I found him.
No.
So see is peeking.
Yes. And then as we talk about light, we get into light and color. Before we get into the whole color deficiency part of it, we need to learn why. Why is there color deficiency? I don't think I answered why there's color deficiency, but I got pretty close, I think. So we need to know more about the anatomy of how light and color live in the structure of the eye. Of course, that's in rods and cones. Rods are for detecting lights. They work really well, or they help us better in dim light situations. And the cones are where the color is. There are around 100 million rods and about 6 million cones. A lot of the rods are in our peripheral vision. So the rods are distributed throughout the retina with a higher concentration in the peripheral vision. They allow dark settings. They allow us to see better in dark settings, and they also produce black and white images. So if we only had rods, we would only see in black and white. And there are about 100 million rods in the eye. Thanks to 100 million. Cones are in the central part of the eye in the fovea, and they are where the color comes from. There are only 3 red, white. No, I was going to say red, white, and blue. Red, blue, and green. Red, blue, and green. And they have 6 million followers. So what do they do? Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just saying I like that. They have 6 million followers. That's a fun way to actually remember that. The cones.
I was trying to think of fun ways to zhuzh up this part of it. Because this goes kind of pretty deep. And I had to like look up terms of things because I'm like, I don't even know what that is. The rods and the cones have 3 different segments. They have an outer segment, an inner segment, and a synaptic ending. I'm going to kind of be as layman as I can, so I apologize if this is not right, but this is what I got out of interpreting the words that they were using. The rods and cones are gathering the light and the color, and it travels through the through the stages of transmission in these 3 segments.
So I think it's, if you wouldn't mind going back real quick. Sorry. I know I keep
Nope, you're good.
So I think it's
There's a
worth
lot
taking a
here.
moment to actually, look at and think about what all goes into how we actually perceive light.
Oh, and that's all. Yeah, I have all that going forward.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Yep.
I'm done.
Yeah. No, you're good. So in the outer segment, that's the inner segment. Hang on. I missed one. Oh, maybe I didn't do the outer segment.
It's right there, Candy. Just slow down. It's at the top.
Well, I know, but I thought I had more on that in the other spot. So the outer segment has, oh, maybe I put it at the end. That could be just in the wrong spot. Has discrete discs saturated with rhodopsin molecules and a photoreceptor molecule that absorbs the light. So this is where the light starts. Then as we get into the inner segment, it triggers the biochemical change that initiates the visual sight transduction. So we go from the light waves, then it transforms into farther down in here into the retina. So we see the image that the world is portraying with the light and the color. And the outer segment does have a larger surface so that it's exposed to the most higher part of the light. So then, yes, you're right. I just needed to slow down. The inner segment holds all the mitochondria. That just means, to me, again, in my layman's terms, that the biochemical change that happens in the discs has to go somewhere because of the energy. We know energy travels. It just keeps traveling. And it transforms it into the from one point to another to help us with those wavelengths. And then in the synaptic ending is where we see the results. That's where it's hitting the retina and getting into the back of the eye and triggering the brain and the eye to see the image that we are looking at with the light and the color. Did I do a good job about breaking that down? Okay. But wait, there's more. We have proteins that we didn't talk about yet. I don't know a whole lot about this, I'll be honest. I wanted to get a little bit deep into the color part of it because that's where I am more passionate about because I have a color. He's not colorblind, he's color deficient. And this kind of explained it, why he is a little bit. Rods have, is this a word or is it, I didn't look this up.
Rhodopsin, I believe.
But I don't know, is it a...
It's a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
I was thinking I can't think of what I'm thinking of.
Like
okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Do
No,
each of
it's a
these
real
letters
word.
mean something else?
It's just a word.
Just a word. Okay.
One you want to know though.
The rods have how'd you say it? Rhodopsin?
Rhodopsin.
Rhodopsin. The cones have a S, M, and L. Without these proteins for the cones, they will be unable to capture light. And we all know without light, we can't
See.
everybody we see. So I was just kind of being a smart aleck and I put small, medium, and large. And then when I looked into it, it really is small, medium, and large wavelengths, meaning blue, green, and red. So that's why it's small, medium, and large, or S, M, and L. There are about 20,000 proteins embedded in each disc and about 100 discs for each cone. So there's a lot going on in the back of that eye there. And then without these proteins, the cone is unable to capture the light because that's what converts the light into the chemical reaction causing the color of phototransduction. And this is an image that says the opsin proteins have to pass through 7 times inside the discs to get the color that we perceive per cone. That's a lot. There's a lot going on in there.
So the rhodopsin is one of those, is the protein in that rod.
Okay.
So we're
And then right here it shows
when
where
we're talking
the
about the 20,000 proteins.
Yeah.
Rhodopsin is the protein of the rod.
Okay. All right. It's all coming together. And then right here it shows retinal attachment. So then you have all of your periphery cones and rods and all of that. Now we get into the color part of it.
So just to add a little bit to the opsin. So opsin in Greek means sight. And if you went back a couple slides, you where you had the kind of chemical reactions a little bit there.
This one?
That one there, yeah. So that's a really good one. If you see down there the region containing oligosaccharides, saccharides are just sugars. So these are sugars in the eye, and so that's the fuel that kind of that fuels this whole process. And then up at the top, you see phosphorylation sites.
Yeah.
So phosphor, if you think of like the tip of a match, right? That's red phosphor. It's a very active material, and it's a very chemically active material. So even a little bit of friction or a little bit of energy causes almost like an explosion of energy, right? And so what happens here in this process is as photons come in and that light comes in as energy, and that whateveration. I have the hardest time with that word. Basically, what's that saying is it's a very weak chemical bond there with the phosphor atoms, and so when light hits it, those bonds immediately break. And think of like a nuclear bomb or an atom bomb. When you split those molecules, you release energy, right? And so that energy travels down through the nerve cells, and it's an electrochemical response, and it keeps traveling till it gets to the brain. Now, when you light a match and you set it on fire, that match and you throw it away. It's no good anymore. So that's where that oligosaccharides or whatever, that's what's used to replenish that fuel so that you get that process going there. And there's, within the cells, there are a whole bunch of methods or processes that happen, like ATP and a couple other processes that happen where you're basically converting those sugars over into those bonds again to create those phosphors on the tip. And rhodopsin is the slowest of them all. So if you've ever seen like the pictures of pirates wearing patches, that's so that they can preserve their night blindness.
Yeah.
Because once the rhodopsin is depleted, that they give like an average timeline of roughly 20 minutes for it to replenish. Whereas with our red, green, and blue, the other options, they replenish a lot quicker. They fire a lot faster.
So
Sorry,
Harry,
chemistry.
so Harry, with that, does diabetic retinopathy play into this at all?
I mean, you would think with sugars, I mean, diabetic retinopathy, if there's bleeding in the back, which is kind of, that's the retinopathy part, right? Is
Right.
we have something going on, there's bleeding and it's happening on the retina. That doesn't necessarily mess with this photochemical response. What that does is it floods and kills off that part of the retina or retinal cells, because now they don't have a supply of oxygen going to them through that blood. So it does, but it doesn't, like, it's not like it pulls away the saccharides. Those are two different chemical processes. But the sugars getting into the eye do cause the arteries and the arteries as well as the veins going back. Those sugars do crystallize and do travel through the blood. So a higher sugar level in the blood does act almost like a grit traveling down there, and it does weaken the walls of the retina. That's what causes the bleeding.
Science is cool.
Yes,
Sure
yes,
it
it
is.
is.
I'm loving this. Thank you,
There's a
Candy.
lot going on. I'm like, oh, I can't do all of this. I have to stop somewhere.
That's the fun of the group.
You're covering so much. It's good. It's really good.
You really are.
Well, and I needed to get from the front to the back cohesively, like, you know, like there's an order of things. So with color deficiency, with the cones, there are that's wrong. There are 3 types of red-green deficiencies. That's red-green is the most common. Deuteranomaly is certain greens appear red. Generally, that's mild color deficiency. I can't say it. Protanomaly. Red shades appear less bright. I have that one highlighted because that's the one my son falls under. And protanopia and deuteranopia are the inability to distinguish between the red and green, like it looks like the same shade of whatever color they see that's not red or green. Here's a fun little red-green test. And then I brought my son out here so we could kind of chat, and I was wearing a green shirt and he was saying, oh yeah, I can see this color's brown and that color's green and that's a dark green and that's gray and black, because it was like checkerboard. And so we originally found his color deficiency when he was 6. Just out of kindergarten. He did not do one coloring project the whole time in kindergarten. So I went and we did some testing, and turns out he is red-green colorblind. So his crayons, I almost want to say to me, the way he made it sound is they all looked like the same color. So he's like, why do I want to color a picture that's all the same color? So we talk about it all the time. It's kind of a fun thing because John Deere is his favorite. And I'm like, how do you know John Deere is your favorite? You can't even see green. Well, he sees green more than he sees red. So green tractors they're all green tractors. And red is more brown to him. He also said that orange is weird and purple is weird based on what his friends tell him verbally what the color looks like because of the lack of red. And I never even thought of that. I never thought about colors that are mixed with red being an issue because he has a hard time seeing the red. So it's really not primarily red and green. It's red and everything that it touches and is involved with. So I thought that was a pretty cool conversation. The blue-yellow deficiency affects blue, green, yellow, and other colors that complete. Oh, well, complete color vision deficiency is monochromacy, and it is very rare, and it involves seeing shades of gray. I don't know anybody that is all the way monochromacy. My grandpa was blue deficient. And funnily enough, my grandmother always bought him blue clothes. So I think, I don't know if he thought they were gray clothes, but like everything in his wardrobe was a shade of blue. Color deficiency also is more prevalent in men, with about 1 in 12 affected. So how many men we got in here? Are any of you on this call color deficient in any way? Do you know? Have you been tested?
Never mind. It's not funny anymore.
But it is.
Usually,
I actually
most
dated a girl that was color deficient.
Yeah, and I don't know, they don't ever, or if they did, I didn't see the numbers of women, but it's not very high. It's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4.
Yeah.
Well, there's a free colorblind test from Enchroma. I'm pretty sure I had a call with them about some colorblind glasses a couple years back that I had a gentleman that was interested in. It didn't end up going anywhere. We didn't do anything with them. But I do know Enchroma is a pretty decent like resource for colorblind questions. And then I was thinking as I was going through the testings and the all the charts and all the things, if red green is the most common deficiency, then how does the duochrome test work for visual clarity? Why did we pick those colors, or in what I guess I need to know what came first, the duochrome test red green or the red green deficiency information that we've got? Why is it why is it red green?
So I can tell you why the duochrome is red green. Now, how that plays in with color deficiencies, I couldn't really answer. I assume that there's something else, you would have to just try another method. But the duochrome test is red green because yellow is kind of, I wish I could draw right now. Think of it, you have like red on this part of the spectrum. You have green on this part of the spectrum. Right in the middle is yellow. So that's what they found. There was equidistant red and equidistant green. And
Okay.
so what you have to do with the test, and we'll go into this more later, but that kind of helps you to kind of fine tune it. There's I forget what you call the words. It's called a RAM gap. Red add minus, green add plus. Basically, if you're looking at it and you're not quite seeing the red that well, but you're seeing the green just fine, then you add a little minus to it.
So, and I was reading, it's for clarity and that kind of stuff, but I thought, well, if 1 in 12 men are deficient and red green is the most common, how does that work with the duochrome test?
I'd be very curious. I actually don't know the details on that, but I know the duochrome isn't like used in every office every day, so it doesn't come up as much, probably for that reason. But there could be a more accurate.
Duochrome came out in 1927, and color blindness was discovered in the 1700s. So color blindness definitely came first.
Perfect.
And then duochrome, my guess is that's why we do color blindness tests before we do an eye exam, is then we know whether we can actually do that or not.
Okay.
And then if it's, if they are red green colorblind, they're either going to test for amount or they're going to be able to eliminate it and not do it at all because they know the answers from the Ishikara testing.
Right.
Oh, Harry posted a great, you don't need to know this part for your test, but it's really good information to have. And it's about like the genealogy of color blindness and who's more likely to have it, given the mother and the father, all that jazz. I would highly recommend looking at it later. It's pretty cool.
Oh, the genealogy of it. Yeah. And because we had to try to figure out where it came from because I didn't have any idea where my son had got it, but I do know that it comes from the mother's side of the family. So we did a little bit of digging around. I don't think I found much. But yeah, it is pretty cool to look into. 12% of men, 8% of the 12 are women. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of like almost 1% of women could possibly have color deficiency, whereas 12% of men. And so the way they figured that out is an X-linked or a chromosome-linked trait. And so the Punnett squares just kind of highlight if you had a male with two or a male with one X chromosome that was colorblind and a female with two X chromosomes, and one of them was colorblind, the female wouldn't exhibit any colorblind traits. Whereas if they procreated, then their children would have the likelihood of being colorblind because they could either get the colorblind, they'd have a 50% chance because they would either get the colorblind gene from their mother or the non-colorblind gene from their mother. But the father plays very little in that because if they were to have a son, it's always going to be the Y. So it's the mother that carries along that colorblind gene, but it's also the mother that's more kind of immune to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah,
kind of neat.
It is, and it reminds me of playing in high school. We played the penny game when we had to sit with a lab partner in science class and flip a coin, whether it was an X or a Y, whether it was a boy. And
yeah, heads or tails. Yes,
we got to pick the eye color and the hair color.
So in genetics, color blindness is like the number one thing. It's every example is colorblind because it is one of the specific traits that is chromosome linked to XY. And so you'll see it in a million different places. Like if you looked up Punnett squares, it'll always talk about colorblind because it's just low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. And then I did do 5 questions for each. Well, that's not the truth either because I added a section and didn't add any questions. For refractive errors, if we want to go through those.
Always.
You want me to read?
Yeah, you can read them aloud and then we can all kind of put it in the chat what we think the answer is.
Okay. So refractive errors, what is the main issue of myopia? A, light focuses behind the retina. B, light focuses in front of the retina. Or C, the cornea is shaped perfectly, the cornea is perfectly shaped.
Paige, you're not allowed to answer.
I waited. There were 5 or 6 answers before I did.
Number 2, which corrective method is most common worldwide? Laser surgery, eyewear, or eye exercises?
I don't know this one.
So this one, they can have the 3 of the answer that you have choose over there because you didn't have
most
didn't have
common
25
worldwide.
more. Yeah, but it depends. It depends for what you're meaning because I see. So starting the first one, normally the laser surgery can be better. So you can remove the glasses and you can correct everything because you can finish the laser surgery and you can be 20/20. You can have the eyeglasses and still you can't arrive at 20/20. And I think the third one, the eye exercise is more for the lazy eyes. You never can reach that 20/20 with the eyes exercise. So for me, I think can be better the A as I see in common worldwide.
Okay.
I like that. Someone's going to break it all down.
Yeah.
I love that.
How does presbyopia affect vision? Difficulty focusing on distance objects. B, difficulty focusing on close objects, or C, permanent blurred vision?
You got a lot of B's.
4, what part of the eye is irregularly shaped in an astigmatism? The retina, the cornea or lens, or C, the pupil? Here's yours, Paige. Which condition is age-related? A, myopia, B, hyperopia, or C, presbyopia?
Da, da, da.
Lewis, you're wrong.
Just on principle.
No.
I'm not looking at the answers, by the way. For visual acuity and sensitivity, number 1, what is considered normal visual acuity? 20/20, 20/60, or 20/10?
That in the United States, we're the only ones that use this terminology.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Fahrenheit.
Just wait for your ABO
It is right
advance.
for the ABO.
I agree with that.
Number
I thought you'd
2.
appreciate that. You're welcome.
What does contrast sensitivity measure? A, color perception, B, object distinction from background, or C, peripheral vision? Number 3, which test is commonly used for visual acuity? See, and I thought I had pictures and all that kind of stuff in there of this test. How did you say that, Paige? Ishihara test?
Yes.
B, the Snellen chart, or C, the Farnsworth-Munsell hue test? Yeah, I know I had pictures of those. I don't know where they went. Number 4, contrast sensitivity is primarily used post-surgery for which procedure? A, cataract, B, LASIK and PRK, or C, glaucoma?
What do you say the right answer is for that?
LASIK and PRK. That's what I found in the research that I had done.
Okay.
That's the word where it says primarily used. Because I did look to see that it's not used in all tests, and it is used before and after some surgeries. So I think cataract could fall into that.
Right.
I don't know that glaucoma would, but definitely LASIK and PRK. And again, it could be based on region. I don't know that I've ever done a contrast sensitivity test, but I've not had any of those conditions. And 5, how is visual acuity checked? A, a reading chart, B, using a color wheel, or C, measuring eye pressure?
That's a lot of yays.
And then because I added the rods and cones part today, I don't have 5 questions on rods and cones. So if you want to come up with some, I'll answer them.
How many rods are there in the eye? We can't hear you. That's points.
I don't think you won't have this on your advanced test either.
It will be there.
Yeah.
How many rods? How many cones? Where are the cones located?
That one's a good one, where the cones are located. And I even said that word.
You did. That will be on that was on my test.
That's on my test too. It'll say it along the lines of like, what has the highest or where is the highest concentration of cones located in the eye? And it'll tell you like macula, fovea centralis. Like, yep, there you go, Harry. Just
Harry got it.
Yeah.
That one was on there.
Yeah, most definitely. As well as some of these color blindness ones too.
Mhm.
There is one, did you go into the trinopia or whatever it's called by any, I don't remember. I'm so sorry.
No, no, I didn't.
So I only mention it because, as with everything, everything always warrants further kind of research on our own and study. And I'll try to find some more information on it to upload. But it will get into more detail of all the types of it. I did a quick search because I already forgot. Um, let's see here. So there is this, if you have a complete color vision deficiency, you can't see colors at all. This is called monochromacy or achromatopsia, and it's rare. Now, going into the trianomaly and trianopia. So this is blue and yellow vision color deficiency. It's a it's a less common type of color deficiency, so it makes it hard to tell the difference between several color combinations. But there are two types of blue-yellow vision deficiency. And so that's the trichotonomaly, which is makes it hard to tell the difference between the blue and green and between yellow and red, and tritanopia, which makes someone unable to tell the difference between blue and green, purple and red, and yellow and pink. It also
Oh,
makes colors look less bright. I'm going to copy this link into the chat because this is something I think I either I pulled or somebody else did when they were doing this one, and it's a great resource for that.
yeah, and I didn't go in as deep on the blue and yellow as I did the green and red.
It's something that I only
So,
mention it because, like, just to like
uh,
in total, because
yeah,
it'll be there just when you think it won't, because it's not common. It'll be there twice.
right.
So just to add a little bit to that, I put a color blindness chart in the a picture of that in the chat there, and it goes over the different cone systems, red, green, blue. The way I like to remember that is RGB, red, green, blue. Proto is first, Deuto is second, and Trito is third. And so those are the Greek roots for the prefixes. And then we commonly say red, green, blue, or RGB in that specific order. So if it's a protonomaly, then they still have use of their red cones, but there's an anomaly there. And if it's opia, then that's just completely shut off or deficient. So that would proto would be the red, and then deuto would be the second color, so that's green. And same thing, if it's an anomaly, they still have use of the green, but it's dysfunctional or there's an anomaly there. And opia means that it's completely non-functional. And then tritonomaly and tritonopia are again the third color cone, which is the blue. So RGB again, and then same thing. Anomaly means they have use of it, it's just not as strong. Whereas opia means that it's completely deficient, it's cut off. And then there's the few kind of weird ones there, like achromatopsia was mentioned. That's where all of the cones are just completely gone, completely deficient. They're just seeing in black and white or grays. And usually they'll present with like very, very light sensitive. And then there's blue cone monochromacy, where they just have normal blue cones and the red green is completely gone. So that's again considered like total color blindness. And then there's actually they call them like super color or superior color or tetrachromacy basically, where they have an anomalous uh, red cone, but it's actually like hypersensitive. So they see more shades and more variations of reds than the greens and the blues. And the thought process behind that is that the reds were the reds became more hyperacute and more sensitive over time, just because as hunter gatherers and running, and you saw blood and that signaled danger. We were just kind of conditioned over time to develop that additional ability to be able to be hyper acute to reds. So that's kind of like a weird one in and of its own. Really cool chart that came from primary care optometry. So that's in the chat if you want to copy that.
And Harry, I hope it's okay. I could take it down. If not, I did upload it to the share drive for our group. Are you cool
For
with that?
sure, dude.
Awesome.
Always, you know it.
Awesome. I figured I just had to check. I also went ahead and put those links in there as well. What I'm going to try to do is any documents or links or anything that's shared in the chat throughout presentation, I'm going to save under a folder titled whatever that week's presentations are. So whenever you go to the website and click the Google Drive, you'll go in there and you'll even see visual acuity and color blindness. And when you open that, you'll see the charts and some other things. So trying to upload as much as I can. And all of y'all feel free. If y'all are doing some research and find something, upload it too. Find some cool links, add that link to the important links document.
What about the rest of them, Lewis? You can't just skip to number 5.
Oh, I can't?
Lewis is at risk for a lot.
High risk for many things.
That's so true. I'm so sorry.
This will go real dark real fast, Mike. Thanks.
So, color deficiency. Woo! Which test is most widely used for color blindness? A, the Snellen chart. Did we go over this? B, the Ishihara test. C, LASIK assessment. Someone say C. Someone say C. No.
The bees have it. Oh,
what
is Jesus.
Number 2. Thanks, Harry. You got me.
What is the most common type of... Everybody's going to believe it one day, though.
Whatever Harry says is gospel, pretty much. So
what is
that's
the
how I
most
approach
common
this.
type of color vision deficiency? A, blue, yellow. B, red, green. Or C, monochromacy. Say that 3 times fast. Monochromacy.
Monochromacy. I stare at
Number 3. Which condition makes certain greens appear red? Deuteranomaly, protenopia, monochromacy.
This is a good one.
Number 4. What condition is known as complete color vision deficiency? A, monochromacy. B, deuteranopia. C, blue-yellow deficiency.
There's the answers again. And Anna, you got that one right. You're the only one that guessed it. So congratulations.
Yay, Anna.
You get to present a more complicated one.
And Lewis picked number 5 already. So do you.
Have we discussed that?
Yes, we did.
I could be wrong.
I have a resources page. I also have an answer key. I don't know if my answers are right. I think they're right because I did a thing in Canva that said I want 5 questions of each of these, and it made them up on its own. So I also had to take the test. Can anybody see what the circle says?
11. Sorry.
See the 5.
You got it.
All right.
That's it.
Past the final. So how did it feel to be the first one?
Okay.
It's a nerve
Only
wracking process.
because the more I got to doing, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to know this. Oh, maybe we need to know that. I felt like we needed to know all the things, but I only knew.
Did we lose Candy or?
I think
I
we
think
may
we lost
have.
Eh.
Hitting too many keys. So it was a little nerve wracking because I didn't want to copy what already was done. So I watched just that one from Chelsea's, and then I kind of went and looked and see what anybody else did, and there was a PDF, and I didn't really do too much research of what had already been done, but I didn't want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was the hardest part is kind of seeing. I knew what to expect, but getting into all of it and having all of these topics got a little bit thick in the middle, getting from
Which
the beginning
happens.
to the end.
It's going to happen to everybody on everything they present. I know it
And I
did.
know we're not going to be able to cover everything. And I didn't, there were key points. And like you said, there's stuff in the test. I don't know. I've never taken the test. That's why I'm here. But it's important to have you guys to say, hey, don't forget about these little bits and bobs that, are relevant also.
And you covered a lot. The only true note I think I had, think in the middle, I love that. The only true note I had was the axial linked one, and that's just because I worked in a clinic that did a lot of myopia management, and I also discuss it in a lot of the trainings that I do. So whenever that showed up, I was like, oh, this would be a great time to talk about that because
Yeah.
and with myopia management going where it is, I'm sure it's going to be something opticians are expected to know a lot more about too. And it's just so rarely discussed and it's not gone over. I highly suggest anybody take some time, just, look into axial length or anything like that. I'm not sure what the average, I was guessing it's 23 because it was right in between the numbers I always use as an example. But it's wild, but it also makes everything make sense to me. It makes sense why we have to minify an image, why we have to magnify an image, not just because, our corneas are all built wrong. Sometimes, most of it says it's the shape of the eye. And so that's what's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did a fantastic job. So congratulations on being the first to go.
Thanks.
So does anybody have any questions? Probably should turn it over to Chelsea for a minute because I've been talking all night.
You're fine. I have no feedback. I'm glad we got nearsighted and farsighted straight. I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
You were like this on mute.
I know.
And because of how I had my screen, she wasn't on it because she was on mute.
I just saw her doing this, and so I knew
Yes.
something was
Like,
happening. That's what Chelsea is here for, is to keep us on track and to make sure that we don't make mistakes, because
it's all good.
I know I'll
It's
make
all
them.
good.
So, well, does anybody have any questions on anything or any comments? So I will say, if you would like to, if you don't mind, uploading that presentation to the shared drive, it's on the web link that I sent to everybody. You'll see
Yeah.
the folder that for visual acuity, and that's where I put all the files. Again, anybody that does research, this is for everybody. So if you find something along the way, add it to the file because it helps everybody. And kind of like Candy was saying, that's a lot of us, we're on like our third class session now. So y'all have two videos to compare to, and a lot of times the instinct will be you don't want to do the same thing, but then you're going to end up doing the same thing because you have to do the same thing. But it kind of becomes that how deep or how much are you going to nerd out on this part? And then again, there's always something somebody goes into that's a little bit different than last time. I think we really got more into the cones and rods and the makeup of it and how like the light goes through and becomes that nerve impulse than I think I've seen before. I could be wrong, but
Did
it's
we
just
answer?
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we answer that question in the chat page? Did anyone answer how many layers the retina actually has?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I was like,
Does
I
anybody
actually
know?
was, I was over here. I think it's 10.
Mm-hmm. It is
Okay,
10.
all right. I was over here
And it
researching
ends with
that.
the rods and the cones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I
right.
I saw it. I was kind of that question had me beeline, and I was kind of researching over here. I was like, what is it? But that being said, um, I hope you guys. What I really liked about Candy's presentation tonight as well was we had an organic conversation, and like Mike said, it generated more information than we did in last class about the retina rods and cones, location of rods and cones. I think this is the first time we discussed rods and cones. I was like, rods,
Oh.
D, dim light, it's on the outside, cones, 6 million. I got it. I was like, I finally got it. So this has been very helpful. And I won't ever say that hearing it over and over again is ever dull or the repetition is something that you don't need because if we want to be better opticians and better learners, we definitely want to be able to learn and teach others, of course. So I hope even as the rest of you are going through your presentations, listen with an ear that you do want to regurgitate this to someone else down the line. And I think the way she put it in layman's terms was perfect. It needs to be digestible because you're going to see this 1,600,000,000 times. But yeah, it was great. It was a
Yeah,
great
I
first
had to really
presentation.
get my science back out because I'm like mitochondria. I know the word mitochondria, but I can't
Mm.
tell you what it does right now because I just don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one thing. A lot of us, being in the AVO advanced study group, you see a topic like visual assessment or visual acuity. Oh, well, that's ABO stuff. It is so easy to write something off as ABO knowledge and never do that. That's probably the cardinal rule. Don't do that because you'll be surprised. I mean, most of what you'll get a lot of basic ABO questions on there, but you're going to get a more compounded version. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, never think that just because, we took it to ABO that it's not worth going over. Because rods and cones, just like Chelsea was saying, even just like the amounts of them in the locations is
And
something.
until yesterday, they were not in my presentation. And then Minnie and I were talking, and I'm like, you know what? I didn't talk about where color even comes from. That's a problem.
And that's what's great about that's why I love these classes and I never get tired of them. Like, it's just, I learn something every time. And just like Chelsea was saying, and it's a comfortable forum to have an organic conversation. Everybody can jump in, everybody can talk about it. And that's something that we really like to try to foster as much as possible. So I love it.
And I'm going to take my optical hat and put on my education hat. We naturally, as adult learners, chase down the things that are interesting to us. So watch the reviews that are already posted, the two that are posted, find what's interesting to you and dig down that trail because that's going to be the trail that hasn't been shown. That's going to be the trail that everyone's going to have questions on. And then that's going to loop us back around to the ABO basic that we think everybody else has already understands and knows.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. Like, that's amazing. Yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this, and it also, gave me a reason to, not that I don't talk to my child, but sit down and have a conversation about what his life is like as now a 13-year-old from a 6-year-old, dealing with this color vision stuff. And he said, yeah, I happen to be sitting at the lunch table and somebody said, oh, so and so, what color is that? And he's like, I don't know, I'm colorblind. And Anson's like, no, you're not. I'm colorblind. So they were like kicking it around, and they're like, why didn't I know that? And he's like, well, it's not like, hi, I'm Anson, I'm colorblind. He's like, people don't do that.
It's- and that's so cool. And that's really because you'll find these conversations. I really hated Prism. And then I think our first class and Paige, I think and Jason too, slab off, I couldn't get it. Couldn't figure it out. And now it's possibly my favorite thing to do and teach. And
And you can do it on without paper. Like you
yeah,
just do
I
it.
can just look at it and be like, oh yeah, no, that's what this is now. It's
Yeah.
And now that was my nerd path. So now I'm like really taking Prism to the next level and playing around and seeing what else. And you find those things that you nerd out on and just go to town because you'll surround all that other knowledge with that knowledge. And it's really cool.
I
Well,
also love
Okay,
hearing
good luck.
everybody's.
Who's next?
so next week we get Jennifer Rittenhouse. How you feeling about that one, Jennifer?
You're muted if you're
Did we
talking.
did we lose her?
Show she's
I
here,
see her.
but she might have stepped away.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, y'all. I couldn't get the mute off again.
You're good.
I'm telling you, today was the Mondayest Monday of all of Mondaydom, so my apologies. I'm pretty ready for it. I neglected to actually put any questions together. But now that I realize I don't have to present it to you right now, I will have plenty of time to do that.
I mean, you can, but I don't think anybody wants to stay up any later. I've been up since
No,
4 East Coast time, and I know everybody's probably tired.
yeah, agreed. But as you know, I work an hour from home, and because I
Yeah,
work an hour from home, they let me work 3 days open to close, and those days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh
So
wow.
of course it is. That's how it has to be. It's got to stress you out to the max to work. That's the system.
of course it is.
Well,
But actually, I'm
perfect.
really excited about it. And actually, you can ignore that email then because I'm going to update one of them that I was working on. I really thought that the second part, the accommodation that I was going to work on, was going to be, not a whole lot to report on it. But then when I started really digging into it, it ended up being longer and, in my opinion, more interesting. So,
And
That's
that
kind of where I went with the rods and cones. I'm like, oh, I'll just throw some rods and cones in here. And I'm like, but wait a minute. Holy cow, there's every time I searched something, I found something else. So yeah, absolutely.
and go down that rabbit hole because rods and cones are on your ABO, but what the rods and cones do, what kind of color blindness, what this or that, like the fact that you dug into those details is now going to make every single one of us in this class that much better at that part of the test because now we have it in our heads. And, even if we don't research it any more than that and you see it on the test, you're like, oh crap, that's right. You at least have an idea.
Yeah,
Not that you
process
could
of
not
elimination, absolutely.
study. Everybody needs to study outside too. But yeah, it's great. I love the process of the teaching and how just deep you get into it. So, well, I think that's everything. Chelsea, did you have anything?
No, I'm a big proponent of ending on time. So no, I have nothing.
So she is 26 minutes past talking.
You're in the wrong class.
No, it's 9:30. The thing says 9:30, so I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
good.
I actually tried to make it a correct time this time. We used to try to make it an
Okay.
hour and it lasted an hour and a half. So anybody that wants to is always welcome on the Discord. Some of us jump on there for a few minutes. Some of us jump on there for a few hours. I will not be on for a few hours tonight, but I may jump in for a minute. But if y'all need anything, please reach out. There's plenty of us here at your disposal if you need anything. And look forward to seeing y'all next Monday.
thank
All
you.
right.
All right. Thank
Have a
you.
good
Y'all have
one.
a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.